One thing COVID has done is shine a spotlight on the pre-existing digital skills crisis in South Africa and indeed around the developing world. And there was a recent OECD paper analysing job postings among member countries, and it found a sharp increase in the demand for certain digital skills that were ushered in by the pandemic. Now, South Africa's Silicon Valley and Cape Town has over 450 tech firms, employs more than 40,000 people. But in the main, the current skills development levy and other initiatives have really proven largely unsuccessful in producing sufficient future work-ready skills at scale. Now, one global internet giant with local presence is deciding to do something proactive about it, and I'm joined now by Alistair Mokoena, Country Director for Google South Africa, to find out a little bit more about this fantastic initiative. Alistair, great to have you on Business Talk. Back in April, Google announced the launch of this scholarship program, 40,000 new developers. You then provided full scholarships to the top 1,000 students at the end of the training. Can you just talk us through the project?
Yeah, hi, Michael. It's really good to be here. I think maybe let's start off by saying the digital divide is alive and massive on the continent. We've got about 1.2 billion Africans, and only 300 million Africans are on the internet. So there's a huge potential and a huge upside. And I think what actually supports that is companies like ourselves driving digital skills training, helping to capacitate people, giving them the right tools and skills and financial support. And I think if you look at sort of the innovation journeys of any nation, they really are driven by people that are creative, people that are given support and tuition, and and I think when you look at the developer ecosystem on the continent, it really does require our support. So hence so the whole thing around 40,000 scholarships to really get these guys trained up and skilled, and we actually support them along the way. So from there, then it's about how do you open, sort of access to economic opportunities for them? How do we build, sort of build relationships with them and pull them into our ecosystem, use them as suppliers and co-partner with them going forward?
It's such a collaborative approach.
So far we've actually hit our 40,000 number, which is really exciting.
40,000, and then, as I said, you're providing full scholarships to the top 1,000 students at the end of that training. What does the full scholarship entail?
So the full scholarship means we're actually covering all the costs. We actually give them mentor. We stay very close to them and actually monitor their, sort of progress as they develop.
Now, you also conducted a brief review of the opportunities that are unfolding throughout the internet economy, paying special attention here to the support of developers and startups in the region. What are some of the findings from that review?
So what we're actually finding is that, as people get access to faster internet, things start to accelerate. So that's actually helping. And I think, cheaper, high-speed internet access is really, really helping a lot of these people. And then I think what we're also seeing is that they're actually playing a bigger part sort of in the economy. They're actually starting to stimulate GDP growth. Because if you think about it, small businesses in our country, at least, make up about 52% of GDP, and I think they contribute about 48% of the labor force. So they're really like a strong force to reckon with when it comes to business contribution. And then also, if you look at the kind of the inception of the African Continental Free Trade Area, that's sort of created opportunities for them also. And I think we're also seeing a lot more governments making commitments around internet penetration, sort of increasing and actually creating infrastructure for tech startups.
And it is, again, an ecosystem-based approach. So, from the cables under the sea to, the tech providers, the service providers, bringing down the costs, allowing ease of access. Everyone's got to bring their own piece of the puzzle. You've also launched programs to support small retail businesses in particular here. And it really sounds like a great project. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so we've actually we've embarked on a program to support about 500,000 businesses across the continent, really focusing on the SME sector. And I think here it's really about three things. One is about getting offline businesses to actually become online, so helping bricks and mortar businesses to have internet presence. And then it's about also creating marketing material for them so that they can actually start to drive traffic onto their sites, where they start to collect positive reviews, and we use those to actually create marketing collateral with them. It's also about giving them access to sort of international markets so that they can grow and scale. And we've also been giving them training and tuition, to help them think about things like omni-channel marketing, to help them optimize, sort of how they actually craft value propositions and so on. So it's really about helping these businesses acquire digital skills, because very often the small, small players don't have the resources all the time, to actually pause their kind of business operations to go and study. So it's really about supporting them in the business in real time and helping them scale.
And giving them those skills, as you say, to get online and those key skills that we tend not to have in large abundance in the SME space. How can corporates help with the economic recovery in the face of the pandemic here?
So we made a commitment in 2018 that over a 5-year period, which ends at the end of 2022, that we want to train up 10 million Africans in digital skills, whether it's learners or students or business people or just the public out there, 10 million. And so far we've hit the 6 million mark. So we've got 40% to go, and we're quite confident we'll actually get there. And I think, if you look at economies around the world, they are driven by small businesses. It's really about innovation. And I think, we're very clear that unless we play our part in creating the right environment, in helping people acquire sort of accessible IT qualifications, giving them digital skills training that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, giving them opportunities to actually grow businesses and start businesses, I think is really, really important. So we actually try and partner with some of our customers and say, is there anything you're doing in the enterprise space? Can we actually come together, from whether it's cloud solutions for small businesses, whether it's G Suite packages for small businesses, whether it's about, digital advertising and giving them ad grants to be able to start, driving traffic to their site. So I think everybody has to think about what contribution can they make to really unleash the potential of small businesses to turn, sort of economies around.
Absolutely, because those small businesses become your future suppliers, partners, and consumers on this continent as well. If you look at the journey so far, what would you say the results have been like today compared with what you expected to achieve when you set out, and maybe some of the lessons that you've learned along the way? Because one always has a vision when you establish a project in a strategy session, then you go and roll it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes the results can differ quite markedly. What has your experience been?
Yeah. So I think for me, I'm very passionate about this conversation because it's a purpose-led, sort of journey. So you set out to really make a huge impact. You want to be kind of, the tide that lifts all boats, but you have to look at KPIs, right? So the first big KPI was train 10 million Africans on digital skills. We've hit 60% of that. And the next thing was about getting 500,000 businesses onto the net across the continent. So far, we're sitting at about 450,000 that are now on the net, so 90% of the way. We've also decided to give out those 40,000 scholarships and about 6,000 career certificates through Coursera and those kind of partnerships. We set out to train about 500 students across the continent on Google sort of education tools like Google Classroom and so on. We're sitting at about 490,000 learners and students who've been trained, and we've trained about 25,000 teachers. So yeah, the numbers are staggering, but I think if you work in a partner ecosystem, it's very easy to actually scale. So we actually provide the curriculum, we provide the tools, the product, and the resources, but we've got lots and lots of partners out there who are able to get to places we're not able to get to physically. So through the partner ecosystem, any corporate can make a huge impact on the continent.
You didn't even touch on the accelerator program for African startups. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing is a lot more interest from the venture capital community around startups on the continent. We know the role that small businesses have to play. It's been a massive success for us. We train up so many businesses. We constantly have webinars where we just give tuition and training. So it's actually very exciting, and to look at the economic impact these businesses are actually having in the space where they actually compete and operate is very fulfilling to observe.
We started to see something of a maturing of this market. I was chatting to the CEO of Pineapple the other day. They raised the equivalent of 80 million rand in a Series A round recently. We're seeing many more such insurtech, fintech type startups raising significant sums of capital from local and international VCs. And he was saying, at the international conferences, South African developers are actually at the cutting edge. We're held up in terms of skills as some of the best in fintech and insurtech around the world. So a huge opportunity. How would you say the ecosystem is evolving from Google's vantage point?
So, I mean, we decided that we were going to put $3 million into startups. And I think therefore, as we were looking at like a 3-month sort of mentorship program where we stay closely with these businesses. And I think so far we've helped about 60 African startups. And we've seen many of them become, sort of big players, and they've raised capital and so on. And I think for us, we are always blown away by the sheer brilliance of the innovation that actually comes from Africa. So I think for me, I really would like to see the narrative evolve from Africa's potential to Africa's greatness. I really think that Africa has a lot of great innovators. We have unique challenges that require us to think innovatively. We have a lot of limitations on our hands, but we are not short of ideas, So for us, it's really, really encouraging that, sort of the opportunity to do great things is matched by the resources we have. So we're constantly looking for, new ideas. We are constantly on social media, calling for kind of applicants to come in. And we're also very good at publicizing those that actually do well. So I think for us, it's really about creating a really strong movement of proud African innovators who can be exported anywhere in the world. And if you look at, the kind of work we've done in fintech, in mobile money, in all those spaces, in agriculture, there's just so much happening. And I really think that the fourth industrial revolution is Africa's real opportunity to be counted amongst the best in the world.
And to leapfrog, because that's what technology gives you, is that ability to scale beyond your borders quite rapidly in ways that we haven't been able to do in the past. I've got to ask one final question. I know we're talking about the African startup ecosystem and training, but it'd be remiss to have someone from Google on my show and not talk about search trends and patterns. What have you seen during the pandemic? Has anything changed fundamentally in our behavior when it comes to search?
So search, I like to refer to it as the mirror of society. So everything that happens in society, we actually see on search. So let's maybe rewind to Q1 last year when COVID hit and, harsh lockdowns were put in place. Everybody was searching for information around what is this coronavirus, what is COVID, how is it spread, and so on. Where can I get safe information and verified information? So we used our platforms. We partnered with government and Department of Health to say we will carry all the important websites that give people life-saving information. We also issued SOS alerts, around COVID messages that are really important. So that was kind of the one thing. Then the next thing would be about where do I get resources, and that's where e-commerce started, sort of gaining traction. So people were searching for, stores around me, anything near me became a big catchphrase, whether it's grocery shops near me, material shop near me, fruit and veg near me, self-storage near me, because people were looking for services that we all took for granted when we were able to get in our cars and actually, drive to the store. So that started gaining prominence. And then it was also about the consciousness to start supporting, to buy local and support local small businesses, because, there was a huge outcry around local businesses are suffering, especially the small businesses, therefore jobs will be lost. And you can actually relate to these people that work in small businesses. So they feel like an extension of your family. So there was a movement around supporting SMEs. Small Business Relief Fund started, gaining prominence on search. SME Survival Fund, funding for small business startup in South Africa, small business ideas from home, how to register a small business. So we started seeing a lot of entrepreneurship flourish. And then we also got to things like COVID SME Relief Fund, COVID Relief Fund, Solidarity Fund, SASSA Relief Fund. So people were really trying to, survive. And then, of course, you get into the education space where people were wanting to kind of understand what various tools and platforms are there. And then productivity, where people are saying, well, how do I, get my way around Zoom? How do I learn my way around Google Meets or, Microsoft Teams and so on? So all those things. And then obviously we've got this thing called the community mobility reports, where we have anonymized data of people's movements, based on Google Maps data.
Yeah.
Even that started to change because people were now changing their movement patterns. They were holed up at home, and when they're able to move, it wouldn't be at key commuter congregation points. It would be at retail stores and so on and so forth. And nobody was going to corporates because we're all working from home. So it's quite interesting to see how the data was actually playing out.
In fact, Chris Holdsworth, who's a regular on my Business Day TV platform of Investec, uses the Google location data and mobility data as a leading indicator to see, how is the economy faring? Are we starting to travel more, as a good indicator towards a new normal, whatever that new normal may be? And I'm so pleased to see we weren't just searching for the recipe for pineapple beer. We're actually getting out there and looking for proper resources around entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Whereas YouTube is different though. So YouTube people like myself have learned how to make scones and muffins. I've never tried before. So there was lots of that on YouTube. It was a lot more kind of the social stuff and how do I make this and recipes for this and DIY stuff, believe it or not. So yeah, so I think a lot of people got over their phobias, and YouTube was there to help with that kind of content.
Fantastic stuff. We need to swap recipes. I make a mean banana loaf through lockdown. Alistair Mokoena, Country Director for Google South Africa. Thanks so much for tackling the digital skills gap here in South Africa and into the African continent as well, and for sharing the work that you're doing with us here on Business Talk. Take care.
Cool. Thanks, Michael. Take care.